Hello again. Again, it's January 8th, 2024, and we're having some severe weather. It hasn't quite rolled in yet, but tonight in the southeast is supposed to be severe weather. So I'm hoping that my trees and that my house and everything is all still standing tomorrow. I wanted to talk. One of the things I've always get these ideas, and they always happen when I'm driving or someplace where I can't write them down. But I think what I'm going to end up doing is tying several topics into one. And so I have several titles that I'll read to you, and then I'm just going to kind of combine them. But I wanted to do one on the power of the mind. I wanted to do one on how political correctness dumbs you down, and I wanted to do one called Victor or Victim, Your Choice. And then the other one I was thinking is PTSD or Being Human, Your Choice. But I realized I can do these all in one because what it boils down to is what frequency are you on? Because the lower the frequency we are, the more in this 3D matrix that we're in, where we're being fed thoughts and we're being told how to react and we're being told how to think, versus being on a higher frequency of using thinking more with your mind, your eyes, your ears, your body, your spirit, and creating a reality for yourself that is a higher frequency reality. So how does that happen? I'm thinking of a lot of it is another one I thought of is your story, your shmori, and the power of the self-talk that we have, and how and that changes our frequency, or how it keeps us on a low frequency. So one of the things I was thinking about is a client that I had years ago, and I could always tell when she was going to do something drastic, something that was going to hurt her family, something that was unethical, or usually it was an affair or dumping a husband. And she had been through 6 marriages, and or if she was going to leave her kids, anything. I could always tell by the narrative she started giving me, the story she started telling. So what she would do and is start weaving the narrative. And I another word for that is casting a spell with a narrative, hypnotizing herself, hypnotizing the people around her with the narrative to justify what she's getting ready to do or what she's already done. And so I started realizing how much of this kind of stuff that we do in our society, in ways that we do it, and in ways that dumb us down. A lot of it is purposeful dumbing down. But we can, I like that saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, because we can either accept that or we can take power over our own mind and our lives. And so the first one of the ways that this happens is through political correctness. And political correctness is a way that it shuts down communication. It assigns motives to other people that they may or may not have. And I'm going to be kind of getting back to the client situation and how that works in a minute. But political correctness ascribes it puts words in ways that sometimes we can take out. We can make something that's very damaging sound okay, and we can make things that are okay sound very damaging. So one of the things I loved when I moved from the north to the south almost 16 years ago is the lack of political correctness. And one of the experiences I had when I first moved down here was I have a friend who's very almost as black as my shirt, and we were having a conversation about the clientele we were going to be serving in one of the initiatives we were doing at this agency. And I said something, this will be for the African American community. And she stopped me and she said, "Look, I know you're from the North. I know you're trying to be politically correct, and I appreciate it, but I am black. I'm not from Africa. And I don't take offense because I don't get into the political correctness. But if I did, then I could say, well, you're assuming I'm from Africa." And so I could take offense of that. So it's okay to say black here, just say black. And I remember I'd never seen that as like, that was, as much as I hated political correctness, that was one of the things that I felt like, well, that's one of the good things we say. That's respectable to do. But when she said that, it was like, gosh, I had these chains on me that I didn't even know were on there, and they just kind of fell off. And so now I can say I have a lot of black friends, and it's okay to say black. And so political correctness, I encourage you, if you want to raise your frequency, to stop using political correctness to dictate your vocabulary. Do it yourself. We can say nice words. We can position things and posture things in a way we can be more mindful. But when we have somebody dictate our words to us, then we can be doing and saying a lot of things that are exactly what we think we're not doing. So that's one way that keeps us in a low vibration. Political correctness, it shuts down communication because we're already assuming somebody's motives. We're ascribing motives, and we're demanding that they use our words, and they say things the way we want, and so it shuts down communication, and so it inhibits the ability to move past something with someone and have a better relationship in the future. We can't do that when we're stuck in this political correctness place. It's a very low vibration place. It says, I can't think for myself. I can't be kind on my own. And it also says everybody out there is against me and they're trying to offend me. So it keeps us in this really low vibration place. So one of the things is to step into that, to the next vibration, and to reclaim your mind, is to chuck political correctness and be creative within yourself. Be creative with your words yourself. You can do this. I can do this. The next thing is, so I said it creates offense when none was attended. And it doesn't mean that people don't say things that offend you. I had someone come up to me, my cousin, and he said, can you believe all these years, we were kids and remember this and that. And he said, and now gray-haired Mary Beth shows up, because I hadn't been there in a year. And I'm like, and it was dark out, and I'm like, my hair's not gray, but nobody said anything. Like, no, nobody said it wasn't. And he kept talking about gray-haired Mary Beth, and finally I said, Philbert, because they always would tease me, are you teasing me? Do you really think my hair's gray? And he goes, yeah, but you wear it. Wow, you look great gray. So I came home back to Alabama, and I said to my friends and hairdresser and everyone, is my hair gray? And they're like, no, why? Well, we were outside and having a barbecue at night, but my cousin kept talking about gray-haired Mary Beth. So we say things that can offend each other, and I wasn't really offended, but I was taken aback because I didn't want to think that my hair was gray. So again, that's another way that it keeps us in that low mindset. And then another way that keeps us a prisoner in our mind, and this is just a pet peeve. And I get it. There's PTSD. We have war, people who've gone out to war and they've seen things that none of us ever have. There's things that people have gone through in their life that they've been exposed to, some type of violence or accident or something. And yes, there is PTSD. And but I think that we have just grabbed onto that, and everybody and their brother is saying I have PTSD. And I can imagine right now that somebody's watching this and saying, well, I really do, and I can't believe she's dismissing this. And then there's some war hero there sitting there with injuries and wounds and, you know, who lost his buddies, is saying, you go girl, because I'm sick of having somebody, you know, these people, everyone thinks that they have this. And so what I want to say is, and you know, for the vets and things, you know, you are exempt from this, because there's PTSD, and there are things people go through that are traumatic, unexpected, a robbery, things like that, where we're jolted. But there's an awful lot of stuff that I just want to say, welcome to humanity. Because I can't say I haven't had things in my life. I have had some very painful things that have happened as a child, as a adult, and things. But it's part of the human experience. It's when we are here long enough. It's like if you're in a marriage, anyone who's been married for, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you know there's seasons. There's seasons when you're feeling a little disconnected. There's seasons when you're connected. There's seasons where you're stressed. There's seasons where you're grieving somebody's sick, and so the other's carrying the load. So that's all a part of marriage, right? But when we start going with this PTS narrative, it becomes it can become, it keeps us in a low vibration, because it says I don't have control over anything. And again, the vets, you're exempt from this. There may be some things you can take with you on this, but I'm talking about the people that just are going around latching on to that title. There's so many things today, ADHD, so many things that people want to have a label and a title, and maybe it's because they want medicine, maybe it's because they want a check of some type of disability or whatever, but these things keep you in a lower vibration. And for those the vets, you know, that it can be overcome too, and it's a much more difficult thing that I'm not going to touch on this video. So I don't want to say that, gosh, for you guys, there's never any hope, because there is. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of people who you have the power right now to overcome some of this, but you're hanging on to these labels. You're hanging on to these events and these trauma and the stories that you've told yourself, and you're calling it PTSD, and that's become your identity, and so it's keeping you in a lower vibration. And part of the healing process in raising our vibration in anything, with people who have been through wartime, with anything, is let's clean out the unnecessary things that we don't need to be hanging on to. When we can come in and we can do pick up something, we can overeat and put on 100 pounds. Well, that's stuff that we don't need to corrupt our energy field. It's not helping us deal with this over here. So the things I'm coming up that I'm sharing with you right now are ways to try to get some of the clutter out of your energy field, to help raise the vibration, to increase the power of your mind to change your life and to bring you the results and where you need to be. So So as we sit here and we hold on to these things, we start telling ourselves a story. And this drives me insane because I see now, you know, so much of media and marketing and, you know, various agencies will tell your story. Misery loves company. If we want to bring someone into where we are, into, well, here's my PTSD, what's yours? And again, vets, you're exempt from this. So please, you're in a different place. I'm talking to those again, and as far as this goes, who are just, they're not understanding that part of being human means something bad. I lost my husband to the booster shot, and he dropped dead at work as a nurse in a major hospital. So it's trauma. But guess what? It's also part of being human. And so I can either carry that and say, oh, I have PTSD, and carry that, or I can say, I need to keep my vibration up, and I need to see that there's a higher purpose and calling here. But as long as, if I was to walk around, and I do tell the story, don't get me wrong, I tell the story. I share with people, especially those who are contemplating, who have gotten sick after the first set, you know, or after some of these things. I do. It's our choice, but I'd like for people to know that, well, if you've had symptoms after, maybe you shouldn't go for the next one. So we all have those things. We have our trauma. That's part of being human. At some point, we're going to lose somebody. At some point, somebody's going to offend us, or there we'll get hurt or something. And but it's how we respond to that. It's what we tell ourselves, and our story can be nothing more than our own BS. It can be, and I go back to my client. She would start her story, and her whole story goes into, oh, I went through this and this and this as a kid, um, and some of it that I'm pretty sure isn't true, but it's a story. One of the things I love about hypnosis is, you know, we can go back. I can bring somebody to a point where that story came in, and they can get a higher perspective and see, wait a minute, there's a whole, now I see my mother's point of view. I could see that my mother was very scared, and so she was just trying to not ruffle the feathers here, so this happened here. And you know, people can get a different perspective, and they can write a new story for themselves. But what I see happen a lot is I see various agencies, and people get out there telling their story because somebody at some point will have one relatable thing, and then suddenly they latch on, and then that becomes their story. Well, what's my story? Well, I've got to have a story too. And sometimes our stories are to justify us being in a place that is low vibration, a place that we shouldn't be. It's not in our best interest. It's not in the best interest of our family. It's not in the best interest for our body. So we have a story. I eat, well, you know, you have people come in who are overweight. They're 50 years old, and it's like, well, my parents made me eat everything on my plate. And that's the story that they've told themselves that keeps them into a lower vibration. It keeps you from using the power of your mind to be able to overcome and get to that higher level of frequency, that higher level of living, the next step up. And it keeps, our stories keep us in a repetitive pattern, or as in my client, our stories are what we use when we're getting ready to do something that we know we're not supposed to be doing, or that we know is I hear this a lot with people from toxic relationships. I just, you know, this is part of my journey. I'm learning. This is my soul work. I have to be, and so they jump back into things and into the same situation over and over. This is, we just have some things to work out. We have to finish things. And so they write a story. I get especially like on this when I see people like bringing it into a heal, like it, God told me, or in the Christian realm or the medical realm. Well, here's your symptoms, so here's the way to take care of it. And you hear these stories that people, how they get exploited, and now through the spiritual field, in the holistic field. Oh, well, this is my journey, my spiritual lesson. This is my what is it, twin flame. And people want to bring these things in and tell themselves a story, and these, I say, story schmory, they keep you in a low vibration, and it keeps you from exercising the true power of your mind, because you're not you're either changing your story to fit something that you want to do that's not healthy, or you're not changing old stories that have kept you in a low vibration. And so let me see, I think we've just about covered all of those things. But just know that your mind is so powerful, and how we allow our minds to process situations, and the stories we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell ourselves to justify something that's not in our best interest or the best interest of our kids. I'm big on not creating new family curses. We should always be untying and healing those past. It's your responsibility to heal you and to find healing. It's your responsibility to heal the family curses that came down. And that's part of the, oh, well, this happened in our family and I'm carrying it. I've seen so many people who have said, not on my watch. This happened up there, it stops here. And really that's where we're responsible. When we write stories to go create more, we're laying a burden down for the next generation, several generations, until somebody smartens up. So just understand the power that you have within your mind to change your stories, to go back and get new information on those stories, and if you find yourself giving yourself a narrative to justify something that you know in your heart is unhealthy, that it's not in your best interest, you need to dismiss that story and say, I'm not attaching a story to this. I'm going to look at where I want to go and how I want to, I'm not going to attach any excuses to it, and I'm going to take ownership for it. I'm going to be, because when we start taking that ownership, the buck stops here. We force ourselves to come to a higher vibration because we're being mindful in the moment of where this would take us, and that's a powerful way to change habits, to stop yourself from jumping off the next cliff. So I think that's about all that I wanted to share. There's always things, especially in the middle of the night, I wake up and these things pop in my head. I'm like, oh, I gotta share this or that. So these are just some things that are heavy on my heart. Remember, your mind is powerful, and you what you tell yourself, the language you use, the stories you tell yourself, the stories that you tell others, that all will either lower or increase your vibration. I guess that would be it. And I hope you all have a great day, have a great January this year. And if you're seeing this down the road, hopefully people will be watching this later. I hope that you understand that you and yourself have the power to raise your vibration by the transformation of your mind. Thanks, and have a great day.